Boots thud on the roof. A laugh slides down the vents, and somewhere in the aisles, a filthy Santa is whispering names like prayers or sentences. Allison came for one last gift, and she's about to learn what the naughty list really means.
How did you get in here?
Ho, ho, ho. What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my spookies. I'm your host and narrator, Henrique Couto, and yes, it is Friday, and you've already had the cutting deep into horror episode. But I'm here with something extra for you to unwrap, a brand new scary tale of Christmas chaos from our very own Bruce Haney. It will chill your veins, and then warm your heart. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you all so much as we head into Christmas time. So much fun has been had, so much fear has been shared, and I'm just honored to be a part of your holiday season. I hope these shows are helping you along as you wrap gifts, shop, work long hours, or travel to see your family. Make sure you're subscribed because we don't stop with the Christmas content until our final show on Christmas Eve. And even then, nothing truly stops. We have a lot planned for New Year's as well. So hit that subscribe button because you love the spooky side of life. And if you want to support us directly, head to weeklyspooky.com/join. And for as little as $1 a month, you get 2 bonus shows every month. And of course, my undying gratitude. That's weeklyspooky.com/join. But now, as for tonight, what if the naughty list isn't a joke? Not a cute threat, not a wink and a warning. What if it's a real ledger, kept by something that doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, and only comes out when the world is covered in snow and pretending everything is warm? On Christmas Eve, one store stays open late, and the parking lot lights turn the falling flakes into static. The bells you hear aren't decorations. The footsteps on the roof aren't the tiny reindeer you're expecting, and sometimes the Santa in the corner of your eye is too tall, too still, and smiling because he already knows your name. And if you've been good, for goodness sake. So, lock your doors, keep your receipt, and don't look back down the aisle. Because tonight's tale isn't about Santa. It's about the naughty. The Naughty Claus by Bruce Haney. He scrounged through the trash, looking for something to eat. But, as usual, the dumpster was only filled with toys that didn't make the grade. He shoved a few in his bag, thinking they might be useful. If not, he could at least burn them for warmth. He also found a red hat with white fur around the brim. It was a bit worse for wear, but it made him smile as it got him one step closer to a full Santa suit. Under the hat was something that really excited him and got his evil brain coming up with all sorts of ideas. It was a thick book that read 2013 Naughty List, Area 492. He quickly shoved it in his bag, no longer thinking about food. Yes, he had a plan. Something evil with the decade-old book. Something that would truly upset the jolly old fat man. He was interrupted by a crunching sound in the packed snow, followed by dragging. He knew from years of living out in the elements what that sound was. He turned around and looked at the little guy dragging the large sack. He tried to run, but wasn't fast enough, and in a few seconds, the elf was caught and then torn in two. I guess I will be eating tonight. He threw the broken and mangled body of the poor elf into his bag, and then searched through the contents of the sack that he had been carrying. Inside, he found a worn-out pair of the fat man's trousers. This made him smile. He now had a full Santa suit, a naughty list, and all the things he needed to ruin Santa's good name. His smile widened when he found the half bottle of barbecue sauce. Barbecue elf, what a treat. It was Christmas Eve, and Allison was struggling to decide if she should pick up her keys or a razor blade. She had been promising herself all year that she would finally go through with it. It wasn't like she was that far in life. She was only 24, and deep down she knew she could turn things around. But these were supposed to be the good years, right? Life surely is supposed to suck the worst at the end, when our bodies fall apart and our hearts explode. No wonder I have no friends, she thought. All my thoughts are depressing. Why would anyone want to hang out with me? But then there was Sarah, her aunt, the one person in her family she still talked to. The one person, she thought, would care if she made the razor blade choice instead of the key choice. Allison grabbed her keys. She was going to go see her aunt, like she had for the last few Christmas Eves. But first, she would need to find a store, as she had neglected to buy her aunt a Christmas gift yet. She climbed into her Ford Focus hatchback and drove around. Everything is closed, she muttered as she passed another dark department store. The first business she saw open was a Chinese restaurant. She knew an order of sweet and sour chicken was not a Christmas gift, but she figured possibly she could get a gift card. Did her aunt even like Chinese food? Everybody likes Chinese food, right? But as she pulled in, the lights turned off, followed by the open sign. Allison looked at the clock on her radio. 8 p.m. Fuck, is every business Christian-owned in this town? Allison pulled out her phone and Googled atheist businesses. She wasn't exactly anti-Christian, but liked to believe there was no God. She heard that things were bad in the afterlife for those who kill themselves in that particular religion. The search engine's AI overview got its wires crossed. It listed Chick-fil-A as one. She deleted her search and replaced it with "What's open near me?" and scrolled past the AI overview to find a list of a few open places. One was a cigar shop, one was a strip joint, and then finally, she found something useful. Jonathan's discount store. She had never been there before, and it didn't sound too promising. She thought, maybe I could build a snack bag or something. What were her aunt's favorite snacks? God, I am awful, she thought. The one person that cared about me, and I don't even know if she's a Reese's lady or a Snickers gal. She thought about driving home and giving up. Maybe the razor blade was the correct choice after all. When she pulled into the parking lot, she saw that, yes, indeed, the store was open, and there were many, just like her, who had put their shopping off to the last minute. She took the second-to-last open space in the parking lot and then made her way in. This was not an atheist store. Out front on one side of the door was a giant inflatable Santa, and on the other side was an even larger inflatable Jesus on the cross. That's wild, she said to herself as she walked past them and into the store. Moments later, a large thud was heard on the roof above her. Maybe it's Santa Claus, a young clerk who was sweeping up said. I'm sure Santa can land his sleigh a little softer than that, an old man with a baseball hat that declared "Old Guys Rule" on it added. Unless he was drunk, an obviously intoxicated guy in a Christmas sweater said. Something caught her eye about the clerk, so she looked back and noticed his name tag, which read Reuben. But what she saw under his black smock that read Jonathan's Discounts was what got her attention. He was wearing a Harley Poe shirt. She didn't think anyone was cool enough in this town to know about her favorite folk-punk depressive horror band. He also sported a spiked barbell through the cartilage of his right ear. Cool shirt, she said, and continued her mission to find something, anything, for her aunt. Up on the rooftop, the dingy red-suited fake Santa got out of a beaten-up old sleigh. As he walked by it, he pet one of the 3 formerly retired reindeer that led his sleigh. The tired animals looked well past their prime, with their gray fur and worn-down antlers. The fact that they were able to move the giant man was impressive, as he was 7 feet tall and well over 400 pounds. The giant man turned around and walked back to the sleigh. He almost forgot his bag. Much like his outfit and sleigh, it was worse for wear. One might call them hand-me-downs from the big man himself, but it wasn't exactly true. He had to scrounge for everything he had after being unceremoniously kicked out, after he suggested that they start taking the naughty list more seriously. You ready to do your part? He asked the elf, who still sat on the sleigh. Yes, sirree, Naughty Claus. In the store, Allison was struggling to find something for her aunt. She stared at the wine and knew her aunt was a connoisseur, and that she had no idea what she liked. She didn't know if Pinot Noir fans also drank Merlots or vice versa. What else did she know about her aunt? she was completely blanking. Whenever they hung out, they mostly talked about her. Why am I so self-centered? She knows everything about me, but I know nothing about her. I suck. "Excuse me," a man said, snapping her out of her self-deprecating thoughts. She looked over at the man, who was in his mid-40s. He wore an ugly Christmas sweater that said, "Just looking for a little ho, ho, ho." "I said, excuse me," the obviously drunk man repeated. Allison stepped out of his way and continued down the aisle. "Hey," he said as she walked away. Allison turned around. He held up a couple of bottles. "Want a party?" "No, I'm trying to cut down on going home with strangers that I meet at discount department stores on the eve of our Lord's birthday." She followed that up with the one-finger salute. He had no response, but she heard a laugh from behind him. It was Reuben, the worker with the Harley Poe shirt hidden under his smock. Allison smiled at him, and he smiled back. In the back storage area, Naughty Claus, in the dingy red suit, was struggling to drag the large red bag down the stairs. It was just too large for the space. He tried yanking hard while using his hands to squish the side, but nothing was working. So he reached inside to move things around and pulled a few out, including an old-fashioned wooden Christmas tree that had been sharpened into a spike, and 2 vintage metal toy trains that were linked by 6 inches of Christmas lights, like they were festive nunchucks. With those few things removed, he was able to pull the bag past the area where it had been stuck. Before placing the toy trains back in the bag, he practiced his nunchuck skills. When he arrived at the bottom of the stairs, he saw a young woman sitting at a table, eating a sandwich. He didn't know if she was on the list or not. She started screaming when she saw him. His 7-foot frame and frostbitten skin made him look terrifying, which, with the ugly, worn-out red suit, was absolute nightmare fuel. "Ho, ho, ho," he said in a poor attempt to calm her down. She didn't calm down, and he knew the screaming wasn't good. He didn't want all the shoppers in a panic yet. "Shh! Stop that noise!" She didn't. He reached into the bag and pulled out a red slingshot and a small pouch of marbles that he had used a few times to shoot puffins for food. She tried to get up, realizing she was in danger. He shushed her again, giving her one last chance. She didn't calm down, so he shot her in the face with the marble. The pain was intense as it hit and put a small dent in her forehead, but it was not at all lethal. That's when she decided to run. He continued his onslaught. Even with his rapid fire, he was a damn good shot, and he hit her multiple times in the back of the head. But he did no real damage until he hit her ear, putting a hole through her right earlobe, which made him laugh. With his large gait, it only took him a few seconds to catch up to her. If the people shopping hadn't heard her screams before, they certainly heard the noise she made as he grabbed her by the fresh hole in her ear. Then he pulled out the naughty list of 2013 and held it out. The book opened on its own and flipped rapidly before stopping on a page of names where Dalen Armstrong's lit up. Next to it, it said, "Minor incident. lied about doing her homework. The Naughty Claus smiled and pulled out another small sack from his bag. This one had coal written on it. He pulled out what looked like an old M80 that was painted black with coal stenciled on the side. He found them with a box of old lawn darts in the vault of banned toys. For a time, Santa had thought it was appropriate to give children fireworks as a Christmas present. He pulled on her earlobe, causing her to scream even louder. This was unfortunate for her, because this allowed him the opportunity to throw the M80 in her mouth. He tried to back away before the explosion, but there wasn't enough time before it went off, so he was showered in blood, gore, and teeth. There was some panic in the store caused by the sound of the explosion, and people made their way to the front door, only to find it blocked by a van. On top of the van sat an elf who just laughed and laughed. He too looked unkempt and frostbitten, just like the evil Santa. "What the fuck?" a young man with green hair said. "We're trapped!" a lady with a cart full of discounted Christmas decorations yelled. Allison looked on. She knew she was likely in danger, but it didn't bother her. She didn't care if she lived or died, and this made that thought even more crystal clear. But she did find herself smiling, and glad that she hadn't killed herself yet. This might just be the most interesting thing to happen in La Grande, Oregon. At the back of the store, the double-action doors swung open, with the Naughty Claus holding one door with each hand as he peered out. These doors were designed for forklifts to go through, but, at his size, he still had to duck his head to walk through. Once he did, he stood up straight, and his head was nearly as high as the large sign behind him that read, "Produce." He then opened the book and flipped from page to page before settling on one that said, "Charles Kaysen." At the front of the store, they all scattered. Allison ran towards the customer service desk and leaped over the counter, where she found Reuben hiding. He looked at her, and she looked back at him. Not knowing what to say, he complimented her on her folk punk shirt. "Cool shirt." She looked down, not remembering what shirt she had on. It featured the Bridge City Sinners. "Thanks. I made a trip to Portland to—" She was interrupted by an awful wailing sound of somebody at the back of the store, which she could only imagine were being ripped apart by all the commotion they were making. A moment later, the screaming stopped, and they heard something heavy being thrown to the ground. They assumed it was the dead body of the person who had been doing all the yelling. "We can share folk punk stories later. Best to be quiet in a situation like this," Reuben offered. Allison shook her head in agreement. The Naughty Claus walked over the dead body whose limbs went in unthinkable directions and looked for the next person on his list. He glanced at the book one more time before closing it. The name was Allison Wurtzel. He scanned his surroundings. He didn't have some kind of laser eye computer system where he could just look at a person and it gave him their name and all their details like it was some kind of monitor. All he had was the ability to look at a person and know their name. Santa Claus didn't even need the book. He could look at a person, know their name, what list they were on, and if they were a cat or dog person. The magic, as they called it, at the North Pole, affected each of them differently. The lady hiding behind her shopping cart in front of him might be on the list. He wasn't sure. as the book wouldn't tell him until he took care of Allison first. As he walked by the cart, the old lady pulled out her stun gun and tried to shock him. He stopped and turned towards her and bent down, getting right in her face, so close that she gagged from his rotten breath. "Ho, ho, ho," he said and smiled. She gave a slight smile back. "Merry Christmas," she said, then followed it with, "Santa?" That was a mistake. His smile turned into a scowl and revealed his cracked teeth and his blue, frost-bitten gums. He then stood back up, reached into his sack, and slammed the wooden Christmas tree toy he had sharpened through her skull. He thought to himself, "If I wasn't on the naughty list before, I certainly am now." This thought brought a huge smile to his face. "Why do you get to have all the fun?" a voice behind him said. He knew the voice. "Have your fun, Sprinkle. Nobody's stopping you," he said to the elf. "I hate that name." "It's your name." "That was Santa's name for me. I told you I'm Zeke now. Twinkle Claus." The monstrous Santa Claus wannabe spun around and grabbed Zeke in one hand. "Never say that name again." The elf pulled out a sharpened wood chisel. "I'll kill you, motherfucker!" The Naughty Claus laughed, and the elf joined him. "We're looking for Allison Wurzel," Naughty Claus said. "Help me find her and I'll let you get a few good stabs in before I break her." "Where is she?" Zeke asked. Naughty Claus closed his eyes and held out his hand and moved it around, and then stopped and pointed at the customer service desk. Zeke ran in that direction with his sharpened chisel out and jumped to leap over the counter, but only smashed into the side of it. Behind the counter, Allison and Reuben were startled. She jumped up to run, but Reuben was a bit in shock, so she grabbed him by the wrist and pulled him up. As she did, the elf climbed up to the top of the counter and pointed his chisel at her. "Merry Christmas," he said, and then leaped. She looked around for something to fight back with. She settled on a carton of cigarettes. A thought jumped into her head. If my aunt hadn't given up smoking, this would have been the perfect gift. She smacked the little guy hard enough to knock him back to the other side of the counter. She yanked on Reuben's wrist as they exited the area, only to find themselves standing right in front of the faux Santa. The Naughty Claus grabbed her by the neck and began lifting. "You have been a bad, bad girl." Reuben held on to her hand and tried to hold her back, but when he heard the gurgle in her throat, he knew he was only making things worse. So he let go and ran off. She struggled in his arms, flailing her legs and punching at the giant hand that held her neck. It wasn't going well. Her eyes were beginning to bulge, and she felt herself passing out. "Hey, you said I could get a little stabby," Zeke the elf said. Naughty Claus looked at him, sighed, and began lowering her just enough so that she could stand on her tippy toes. It wasn't much relief. And then once the elf stabbed her in the ankle, it wasn't any relief at all. With his hand still around her throat, she couldn't even scream. After a sudden loud noise, though, he released her. She took a moment to get a good breath, and then kicked the elf as hard as she could. He flew back, stood up, and vomited on the floor. "Clean up on aisle 4, Allison yelled, as she turned to see why the Naughty Claus had stopped its attempt on her life. Reuben had returned and hit him with a new shovel from houseware. On his third swing, the Naughty Claus caught the shovel and swung it up in the air. Reuben hadn't let go, so he went flying along with it, going 4 feet back and knocking over a display of stacked 12 packs of soda and a cardboard cutout of Santa enjoying a can. Naughty Claus turned his attention back to Allison, but she was already moving away and heading towards Reuben, who had jumped up and ran toward the back of the store. "Are you coming, or are you just going to keep getting sick next to the potato chips?" Naughty Claus asked Zeke. I'm coming, he said, and followed as Naughty Claus made his pursuit of Reuben and Allison. They were running through the toy section when they caught up with them. Naughty Claus had to slouch to go under the sign that announced the area as Toyland. "Fuck," Allison said, looking back to see that Naughty Claus was catching up. "I know," Reuben responded. "He's just so damn tall that his steps are like 4 of ours." Allison began knocking down board games in an attempt to slow him down. Reuben followed by knocking all the action figures on his side down. Before they left the aisle, Allison noticed something that interested her, so she grabbed it and shoved it in her pocket. The games and figures barely slowed down Naughty Claus, as he didn't even try stepping over them. He just walked on the boxes and figures like it was nothing. "There has to be another way out of here," Allison said. "Through the back room." The two of them ran in that direction and got to the double doors, but Naughty Claus got there first. He caught Reuben by the wrist and Allison by the shirt. She pulled as hard as she could, and the cloth of her top slipped through his fingers. She ran through the doors. "Keep going!" Reuben yelled after her. As the doors were swinging closed, she got a glimpse of him picking up Reuben. But then she heard an alarm sound to her right and saw 3 of the other shoppers leaving through the emergency exit. She ran outside, then stopped. She couldn't let this Santa wannabe kill the one other potentially cool person in town. But then she saw something that would help her. She smiled big and made her way towards it. Maybe this would be the thing that redeemed her. Reuben was fighting as hard as he could in Naughty Claus' arms when the doors flew open. As Allison drove the small forklift out at full speed and put both blades directly into Naughty Claus's stomach, he screamed in agony and let Reuben drop to the ground. She then lifted the forks and him off the ground. His painful growls intensified, and then, when she dropped the forks again, she repeated the up and down action until he stopped making any sounds at all. When the police arrived, they searched the entire store and the roof, but the elf was never found, and neither was the rotten sleigh or the aged reindeer. When all was said and done, Reuben walked Allison to her car. "It was nice meeting you," he said. "It could have been under better circumstances, don't you think?" "True. What are you doing now?" "I'm going to my aunt's apartment," she said. "It's like a tradition." "Cool. So, did you get what you came for?" Reuben asked. "In fact, I did," she said, while reaching into her pocket. "5-finger discount, huh? I hope it doesn't put me on the naughty list, she laughed. I didn't know what to get her when I first got here, until I saw this. Then she held up a regular box of playing cards. When I was young and my aunt would take me over for sleepovers, it was the best. With my parents fighting all the time, it was such a relief. Typically, we would watch movies, do some baking, but my favorite times were when she brought out her old fold-up card table and we'd play a game called Garbage. Easy game, all you need is one deck of cards. It didn't take a lot of thought to play, so we would play for hours, and she would let me talk about all the things that were going on in my life. You know, I see my aunt every year still, but ever since I was 12 and she told my mother that I was cutting, I stopped opening up to her. And in retaliation, I threw that deck of cards into her garbage disposal. She had to have a repairman come out and fix it. It was the only time she ever got mad at me. I'm sorry. You've had such a rough life. It is what it is. The funny thing, though, I was a good kid. I strived to be the best at everything, so I imagine the only thing that could have got me on the naughty list was those damn cards. She smiled to herself and got in her car, started it up, and went to back out. "It was nice meeting you, Allison," Reuben yelled. "Yeah? Then why haven't you asked for my number?" Reuben smiled, and she put the car back in park. He punched her number into his phone as she told it to him, and he sent a text that said, "I'm so glad I finally met the coolest woman in town." When her aunt opened her door and saw how beat up Allison was, she couldn't help but shudder. "Are you okay?" Allison reached into her pocket and handed her the deck of cards. "Merry Christmas, Aunt Sarah," she said while holding back tears. "Merry Christmas, Allison," her aunt said and hugged her. That's when Allison broke down and she started to cry, as did her aunt, who held her until they both calmed down. "What happened to you?" "A lot." "Okay," Aunt Sarah said. "Let me get out the old card table and we can talk it all out." Allison smiled and followed her aunt into her apartment. She helped set up the old table that probably hadn't been used since they last played 12 years ago. Her aunt listened to her as she told her all about her crazy night, and then about her thoughts of ending it all. They both cried, they both hugged, and Allison won the game. When Allison went to the spare room to sleep like she always had when she had spent the nights there as a child, she got into bed and slept soundly as she, for the first time in a long time, wasn't thinking about ending her life. And that's where we're leaving it tonight, my spookies. With snow in the air, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry bees, and the uncomfortable feeling that somewhere out there, a sack might just have gotten a little heavier. So do me a favor, before you go to sleep, double check your locks, keep the tree lights on, and if you hear bells outside, don't assume that they're festive. And make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow here on the Weekly Spooky feed, we unwrap our final Christmas marathon of holiday horrors, a full-on candy cane in the eye, Coco and Dread binge of Christmas nightmares, bigger, darker, and weirder than anything you'd ever leave under the tree. One of our last big gifts of the season, although we do have some surprises left before Christmas, so set a reminder and pour the cocoa. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thank you all so much for joining us, and remember, if you love what we're doing here and want to support us in a very direct way, you can head to weeklyspooky.com/join, where for as little as $1 a month, you get 2 bonus episodes every month and over 5 years of exclusive creepypasta readings and audiobooks. And speaking of, an extra special thank you to our podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names at the end of the show. And they are Johnny Nix, Kate and Lulu, Jessica Fuller, Mike Eschewy, Jenny Green, Amber Hansford, Karen Ouimet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. And you can join those names. They're our nice list here at Weekly Spooky by going to weeklyspooky.com/join and signing up at the $15 a month or higher tier. Now is truly the best time to sign up for our Patreon because I could use the support. You can hear my voice starting to give from all the recording, but we have so much more to show you before the year is up. So now, for myself, for my executive producers Rob Fields and Bobbletopia.com, my producer Dan Wilder, and of course, my creepy composer Ray Mattis, I will talk at you tomorrow. So keep the receipt.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me. Ha 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 ha!